This clip is brought to you by SaveWithConrad.com.
Let's talk about the match itself here. One of the big spots in the show is when Bret Hart tags in and he's going to be wrestling Heath Slater. He's going to throw some punches and do a reverse atomic drop and go for the sharpshooter. And Meltzer would know Hart can't do a match because he can't bump or take any shots, but his movement and offense look good. And it was actually incredible considering he's 53, has an artificial knee, and has suffered a serious stroke. Barrett threw in a chair and Hart uses the chair on Skip Sheffield, easy for me to say, who we know is Ryback, for the DQ in 12 minutes and 10 seconds. Meltzer would say the crowd was genuinely mad when Hart was eliminated, and he was the only guy in the match you could really say that about. Ultimately, we know the story though. Cena's going to put the STF on Barrett in the middle of the ring, and he's going to tap after 35 minutes and 19 seconds, 3.5 stars. A lot of action, a lot of talent. The fans are really behind Daniel Bryan in a big way here. This is probably one of those nights that sort of helped make Daniel Bryan who he's going to become. What'd you think of this one?
Yeah, I thought, what you walked away with was, it was the right thing to bring Daniel Bryan back. It was all about him, and it was the beginnings of the guy becoming a megastar. And if you didn't just see it with your own eyes and understand what you were seeing, then it was just too bad, because they got behind him that night in a very real way. And when a guy gets over, when it clicks for a guy and the audience accepts him and he makes that, connection with the audience, it's crystal clear to see. And that's what you took away from that night. That was the positive.
Meltzer would also do a poll in this era for all the pay-per-views. And it was pretty unanimous that Team WWE versus the Nexus, the main event, was the best match on the show. It got 179 votes. The only other match to get a vote was Sheamus and Randy Orton. The worst match, also nearly unanimous, it's Melina and Alicia Fox. What about you? Do you think the best match was the main event?
Well, probably so. You got to remember, you had some pretty good performers in there, the Jerichos and the Edges, and, there were some other underlying stories within that match too. And they had plenty of time. But I think, and it should. The main event on a pay-per-view should be just that, the main event, and it should button up your stories that are drawing the money and selling the tickets, and you have, you build your show least to most. And I think that was a main event and told a lot of stories, and, you could have still got out of there, I think, with some serious heat on the Nexus, but that's just my opinion.
Chris Jericho also had a report once upon a time that said that it was Vince McMahon's idea for Cena to be the sole survivor of a 7-on-7 match, even as Jericho and others felt that Wade Barrett needed to go over in order to keep the Nexus strong. Justin Gabriel has said that Cena himself had the finish changed to him winning. Gabriel said that he had no bad feelings towards Cena. It was just a bad call. And Jericho and Edge apparently also disagree with Cena's idea that Barrett needed to DDT him on bare concrete just before the Superman comeback, where he would pin Gabriel and then make Barrett submit to the STF. I think Jericho felt that Cena needed to barely survive in a more realistic manner, but he says Cena was insistent that it be done this way. And Jericho also claims in the aftermath of the show that night that Cena admitted he was wrong about how the finish went down. You were involved in all of this. You were Cena's agent. Do you remember there being discussion about the finish and about the DDT and how Nexus needed to be positioned? And what was your advice to John that night?
Well, I don't remember. I think that when you got down to the last 3 or 4 guys, you're talking about overcoming that DDT on the floor and all that, that probably would have been a closed door meeting with only one person that could make that happen. Because to anybody that knows anything about the business, why you would basically no sell that and become Superman and overcome all the other odds to just win is part of the reason that Cena gets all the backlash from everybody that he does. All those that are anti-Cena, it's for situations just like that. And if all those minds that you're talking about, are feeling like the same way, that if John's going to win and survive, okay, but it should be by the skin of his teeth, everybody can't be wrong. And so I think they were correct in that. I think you hurt John more than you helped him. And again, even if you did have John sneak one out, a quick 1, 2, 3, you could let that sink in for just a second and still have 3 of the Nexus guys there to go ahead and just squash him. And here's another mistake, just while I'm thinking about it, that was made over the years. There was this ongoing, Conrad, there's this ongoing feeling that at the end of any pay-per-view or any house show for that matter, or any event, you want to leave the people happy going home.
Right.
Why? Why do you always have to do that?
Well, you didn't on Nitro. A lot of times there would be trash filled in the ring with the NWO taking over. So if you're quote unquote booking heat, you've got to send them home frustrated and every now and again, right?
Yep. The difference is you never ever booked heat ever at the end of the night for a pay-per-view or a house show. And why not? That would have been a classic example of getting a victory, but having the young guys leave seeing in a heap. You would have gotten some heat and you would have gotten to that next Raw, and I would have still been chomping at the bit for the good guys to shut these guys up, and you just don't give it to them. You keep it going. In the old days, in the NWA, a lot of times, most times on television, we would go off the air with heat because you wanted people to come out to the live events and see you get your ass kicked, but you had to pay for it. You didn't give it away on TV. You would have in live events, I know this is a little bit off the subject, but you would have a finish, where there would be the babyface would get splattered. There would be a DQ, maybe a chair shot or something from the heel, so the babyface technically won. Then he would overcome the chair shot and end up kicking everybody's ass anyway, just so you sent the crowd home happy. Well, if you can't hit a guy with a chair and make it stick, why do it anyway? And we would do that time after time after time. And if you go back and check the house show business, we weren't full every night. So something needed to be changed. And I feel like this was one of those nights, just to hulk up and become Superman and cream everybody and go over. I agree with Jericho and Edge. Should have went another route.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.